Morning everyone. We're finally building our dream garden at our new property. And I wanted to make a series of short videos on some of the decisions we made when designing this garden. And today I wanted to talk about the pathways between the beds and what choices of materials you have for them. I think we can put those in three categories. The first category would be stone or other substrate that does not decay. The next would be grass or a living pathway. And the third would be wood chips or straw, organic material that will decay over time. So let's talk a little bit about the pluses and minuses of those three options and why we chose what we did to build our dream garden. So the first option we talked about was stone or another matter that doesn't decay. That could be plastic, things like that you put down, and really you should not expect it to decay over time. So obviously the big advantage of this is once you put it down, it really shouldn't go away. And I also think for certain gardens, there's a nice aesthetic quality to a good quality stone path. And I think that's why these are popular nowadays, kind of going for sort of a French kitchen garden type look. They can really look beautiful. But I'll tell you right now, we have used it before and I would never use it again for a garden. At least here in our climate, zone 6, which is a subtropical climate that gets a lot of rain in the summer. The reason being is over time, dirt and other decaying matter will get into the stone and eventually it'll start looking dirty, you'll get weeds in there, and it can become incredibly difficult to maintain. So here in the United States, in a subtropical environment, I would say anything east of the Mississippi River, I really would not recommend using stone as a pathway substrate. The other big problem with stone is if you ever want to redesign your garden or move a bed around, it becomes incredibly difficult. You have rock, landscape fabric, all these things that you really don't want in any sort of bed, and it just gets everywhere. It's incredibly difficult to maintain. And the last thing that's difficult with a stone pathway is if you have it deep enough, it can be pretty difficult to get a wheelbarrow through when you're amending your beds. Now we moved from California, and in California basically you can be guaranteed to not get any rain from April through October. And so in those climates, really the only things that grow is what you're watering. And it makes a little bit more sense to try a stone pathway in a drier climate in the western part of the United States. But if you're anywhere where you get rain during the summer, I would definitely avoid it. And even in the drier climates, I really dislike the lack of versatility of being able to rearrange your garden if there's something in the future you think would make a better setup. So next option would be a grass or a living pathway. These actually work pretty well in our subtropical environment because we do get rain in the summer. And the grass does a really good job of suppressing weeds because it blocks the access to the soil of any weed seeds. Kind of in the opposite of the stone pathways, I'd probably avoid it on the western states where you don't get a lot of summer rain, because then you're watering your pathways and just kind of a waste of water. So we considered grass or living pathways between our beds, but ultimately it just seemed like a lot more maintenance to keep it up. You're mowing between the pathways, and then you're having to take an edger along all of these beds, and we're planning on having 12 4-foot by 12-foot beds. And anything I can do to focus more on the food I'm growing and less on the maintenance of the garden seems like a win in my book. So the third category is what we chose, which is an organic substrate that does decompose over time, such as wood chips or straw. Now these do need to be refreshed. We will be bringing new wood chips every fall to refresh the pathways, but there's an added benefit in that over time these will decompose and compost, actually making the soil underneath even more nutrient rich. So if you ever want to change the orientation or the layout of your garden, when you pull that organic matter back, the soil will be great underneath. And as you're changing your layouts, if you get a little bit of wood chips in a garden bed, no big deal. They will decompose over time, unlike the rocks or matter that does not decay. Hopefully these short videos are helpful for you guys. We'll be covering other things in future short videos, such as the pros and cons of raised beds versus in-ground gardening, material choices for raised beds, options on what to put in your raised beds for your planting medium, as well as installing irrigation to your raised beds. If there's other things that you want to know about, just let us know in the comments below. And if you don't want to miss those videos, go ahead and subscribe. Happy gardening, everyone.